beautiful butterflies, welcome back to another episode of Killer Bites. We are talking everything true crime here on this channel, and today's case is about Barbara, who seduced her son into sleeping with her because he was gay, and she felt that if he slept with her, he wouldn't be gay anymore. Wow, that's a lot to unpack. So let's dive into this case. And I want to start first with talking about Barbara herself, because in order to understand how we got to that point, we need to know why Barbara was the way she was. So Barbara was born in the 1920s as an only child. Her parents were pretty much middle class. Like, they weren't poor, but they also weren't like super rich or super elite or anything like that. Right away, as a young kid, her father commits suicide. She ends up finding the body, which is already extremely traumatic for Barbara, and clearly is a very big statement on mental health in the 1920s as it is, right? So therapy doesn't exist, so of course we're not gonna send Barbara off to get some help. We're just gonna like pretend it didn't happen and not talk about it. So because Barbara's father committed suicide, Barbara's mother and Barbara were paid out a massive life insurance settlement, which caused them to go from this middle class tier to a very wealthy tier in society. And as Barbara gets older, she decides that she wants to pursue a career in Hollywood or New York as a well-to-do socialite, if you will. And already, Barbara, if you're taking a look at this photo, I mean, Barbara is really pretty, okay? Barbara is very good looking, and she's got this beautiful hat giving me Audrey Hepburn vibes, like, totally get it. So she finds so much success being this gorgeous model socialite and attracts a lot of attention from a lot of gentlemen callers, if you will. She heads off to Hollywood for a hot minute, where she meets a Hollywood star, Brooks Baekeland. And Brooks is a self-proclaimed Hollywood writer, just like Barbara is a self-proclaimed painter. And Barbara just, like, she falls in love with Brooks. She's like, this is the guy I want. And remember that like previous childhood trauma we had where the dad committed suicide and she found the body? Yeah, we never dealt with any of that. So Barbara says to Brooks, I'm pregnant with your child, we need to get married. So Brooks, now feeling trapped, decides to marry her. You know, he's feeling like this is the right thing to do based on that time period. So Barbara tells Brooks that she's pregnant. She's not pregnant. She's like, I am gonna keep you. I wanna be with you. Thanks to my trauma, the healthiest way to do that is to lie about being pregnant with your child, so you'll marry me. So we already have this like marriage founded in a very, very healthy place. In 1946, they actually have their first son, Antony, otherwise known as Tony. Antony's like an adorable, cute little baby. Barbara seems really happy. I'm not really sure how Brooks is feeling about it, considering he was trapped into this marriage. Because these two are socialites, they're the elite wealthy, they decide like, we're still gonna keep traveling. We're still gonna entertain parties abroad with all of our friends. Tony, whether he's with them or not, is mostly being raised at this point by the help. Again, they're super rich, they've got tons of servants, so at this point, they're not really hands-on parents. So Barbara and Brooks would basically use their son Tony to sort of show pony him around in a way. Oh, look how cute he is, or oh, look at our son, like he's so intelligent and he's so smart and handsome, and you know, they constantly would say things like, he's probably gonna be a polo player, or he'll be a ladies' man, or you know, any of these things that they just sort of put onto him at a young age. So it wasn't so much this like loving family as he was more of a trophy for them. While they're sort of toting their son around like something to be displayed, Brooks is heading out, talking to other women, flirting with other women, having affairs. Barbara, I believe, is having some too, but it's definitely affecting her more so than it's affecting him. He's in this relationship, he got kind of swindled into it. She doesn't want to lose him. Anytime he threatened to leave, what does she say? I'm gonna commit suicide if you leave me. That's her trump card. She uses it over and over and over again because that's what she learned at a young age. This is a very devastating thing. It affects people emotionally, and he won't leave me if I play this card, which it worked. She played it over and over again every time she caught him with another woman. And he would stay every time and continue on in this relationship that most likely wasn't the most healthy of relationships, let's just say that. And of course, with this young kid probably watching all of this happen, they're probably arguing in front of him. So yeah, it's starting to get a little bit messy in this house. Barbara and Tony seem to have a very clingy relationship. Okay, I don't know what's going on, but they are inseparable. I mean, there's even this weird photo when you look it up of him in a bathtub, but like at an age that I'm like, maybe I wouldn't probably take photos like that of my kid at that age, but So they have a very clingy relationship. At the same time, they get bored of him. They want to live their life. He's more of a trophy than an actual family member that they love. They send him off to boarding school for months at a time, all the way in Europe. So he goes from, I love you, I missed you, I don't get to see you very often, to 9 months out of the year, you're gonna be in Europe, we'll stop by to have a party. Tony's upbringing is already starting to show that there were a lot of issues and a lot of things going on. At this time, about age 15, Tony's dad, Brooks, is having an affair with a 15-year-old girl from Spain. And he decides, I'm not taking it anymore. Barbara, you're not gonna use that trump card anymore. I'm done, I'm out. So even though Barbara's like, I'm gonna commit suicide, I'm gonna kill myself if you leave me, Brooks says, you know what, I've had enough, I've been unhappy, I didn't wanna be in this marriage with you, I'm leaving. So Brooks leaves to go off with this girl and ends up having a child with her. And essentially says, you know what, I want nothing to do with you guys. At the same time this is all happening, Tony says to his parents, hey guys, while I was at boarding school, while I'm in Europe, I was traveling around and I had this homosexual experience and I'm pretty sure I'm gay. When Barbara's growing up, homosexuality you can be thrown in prison for, or you're sent to the asylum where they think you're crazy and they're gonna start to do like electrotherapy. So it's not seen as a good thing. Barbara, this socialite, as well as Brooks, who's this heir to this massive fortune, are so upset and devastated by this. You know, their son that they've been touting about as a show pony and who's gonna be a ladies' man now tells them that he's gay. Barbara is so distraught. Okay, her husband has just left her, and she's already had her father leave her, which was very devastating as a child. Her personality essentially starts to unravel. They become even more unhealthily codependent. They are now inseparable. It's bordering on inappropriate. Probably shouldn't be spending so much time with your mom. Barbara decides, with the confidence of Beyonce, because she's so close to her son and they have such an inseparable bond, that she's going to help cure him of his gayness by hiring escorts to sleep with him. Okay, so she's paying women at this point, women of the night, to come to her home and seduce her son. But she becomes very, very aggressive about it, even telling all of her friends, like, this is her plan, like outwardly telling them, which is so fascinating to me because if you're that embarrassed by this and you're so upset by this, I'm so surprised she's telling people this is her plan. She must really have had a lot of damn confidence in herself that this was gonna work, to be like, oh no, don't worry about it though. He was gay, but I have a plan that's gonna help. That's kind of crazy already. So of course, these escorts don't work. Tony is gay. This is the life he wants to live. But Barbara decides, instead of accepting this, she's gonna double down. So Barbara starts to get even more intense and more disturbing. And she starts to send him on these like set up dates with girlfriends or like people in their circle, their kids, like anything to make him realize that he should be attracted to women. That sounds like a bad horror movie. Like that sounds like a nightmare. Whose mother doesn't say like, I've got a really cute doctor friend for you? Like, okay, sure. His own mother was even going as far as to hire women to sneak into his room and seduce him while he's sleeping. I mean, this isn't just like a one-time thing where she tries. I mean, this goes on for months and even years where she is trying to get her son to be interested in these women. The escorts don't work, matchmaking dates don't work, so Barbara goes one step further. And this is where, if it wasn't crazy before, this is where things get really insane. So Barbara decides that she is so beautiful that the only reason he must not be interested in the escorts, in the girls, is because he hasn't probably been seduced by her yet. That's right. Barbara thinks the only way to have her son not be gay anymore is by seducing him herself, causing him to, I assume, fall in love with her. When we think about this, I'm not talking a couple days. I am talking months to years that Barbara is trying to seduce her son. She doesn't let it go. This woman is relentless. So it makes sense that Tony, who was once really close with his mother, probably wanted to be around her all the time, is now kind of losing his shit. No therapists. We don't talk to psychologists. He starts to unravel. His mental health is just spiraling downhill because his own mother, that raised him at first, now is trying to do extremely inappropriate things with her son. Let's just go back for a second. Her dad committed suicide. Her husband left her for a 15-year-old. Her son is now telling her that he's gay. For Barbara, there's like a lot happening. It's not shocking to me at all psychologically that she's also in this cloudy state of mind going, this makes sense. So now she's putting this on Tony, and Tony's not having a good mental thought process. His mental health has dwindled. He can't take it anymore. This is a toxic environment. So Tony, on multiple occasions, is caught pushing his mother in front of a moving car, or trying to push her on the stairs, or doing all sorts of crazy shit because it's getting to a point for him where he can't handle it anymore. He would rather see her gone than have to keep dealing with the mental abuse he's dealing with every day. So Barbara's having Tony see this psychiatrist, and he diagnoses Tony at this point as schizophrenic. The psychiatrist says, based on talking to Tony and based on what I'm hearing from you, I am extremely concerned about your well-being, and I do think he's going to try to hurt you. So Barbara is like, no, my son and I are so close. He's not trying to hurt me. I don't believe he'd ever hurt me. This is a relationship that is clearly toxic in both ways, and there needed to be some separation for both of them to heal. So then it's November 17th, 1972. That night, Tony says, I want to have a friend over. Barbara says, no, I don't want to see it. Of course, implying she didn't want to see what he was going to be doing with his friend. And whether or not Tony's intentions were romantic with his friend doesn't matter. He loses it. He gets so upset, completely loses his mind, takes the kitchen knife and proceeds to stab his mother till she dies in the kitchen. And up to this point, I am not in any way trying to defend Tony for killing his mom. I'm not saying what he did was a good thing. Nobody should murder anybody. I do want to make sure that we're painting the picture here of why Tony killed his mom, why he chose and snapped that night. Because when I read the articles and the reports on this, and I feel like a lot of those articles kind of skip over that narrative or mention it in one sentence, like I mentioned earlier, and don't really capture the gravity of his own parents and what they were doing to him. Sadly, Barbara is no longer living. She's no longer with us. Tony clearly had an out-of-body experience because the police say when they showed up, he was chilling, just hanging out, ordering Chinese food, not even thinking about what just happened. And then when they arrested him and brought him to the jail, he was asking them how his mom was doing, not even realizing that he had murdered her, like she was dead. He really did have a psychological break from all of the stuff that he was going through. So his lawyers are now petitioning that Tony is in need of care. He is not of proper mind. Mentally, he needs someone to look after him. This was not the doings of a person with malicious intent for money. It was clearly somebody who is not mentally well. And they petition that he should be able to go live with his 87-year-old grandmother, where she can oversee him and make sure that he's being taken care of. I'm not really sure, but they decide that that would be the best decision. Of course, his dad doesn't want him. His dad already didn't want him. And at this time, what I find extremely fascinating, his dad was saying, like, my son is dangerous. I don't think he should be out and about. He just murdered. He's gonna murder again. He's a crazy person. Lock him away forever. The judge agrees that Tony can go live with his 87-year-old grandmother. 87 years old, like, what is she gonna do? What kind of power and authority is she gonna have over this guy? And Tony isn't there more than a week when he decides, I wanna make a call to England and call one of my friends. And Tony's grandmother says no. This is back in the 1970s. Long distance calling is a thing, it is expensive, and I don't blame Tony's grandmother for saying, hell no, that's a lot of money. You're not calling someone in England from the US, like, get out of here. Again, Tony is denied something that he wants, has a mental break, and grabs another kitchen knife and stabs his grandmother. To that 87-year-old woman's credit, she survives. Kudos for grandma, she's okay. But again, Tony loses it at being denied something that he wants, and his natural response is to murder someone. So Tony is incarcerated at Rikers, which is New York's main prison. And in his 8 months there, he has a merry-go-round of sexual partners. He still has access to all of his wealth, okay, so he can get anything he wants in there. Tony is definitely enjoying himself in jail. 8 months after Tony arrives, he has a psychiatric assessment, and he's trying to get out on bail. And unfortunately, they say they can't grant him bail until they receive the psychiatric evaluations of his previous hospital. So Tony walks back to his cell, where a few hours later, it's discovered that he has committed suicide by suffocating himself with a plastic bag. We don't know the truth of whether or not it was suicide or whether it was intentional that someone wanted him dead. This is what's interesting to note about this. The entire time that Tony is going through this process after first murdering his mother, Tony's father, Brooks, wants him in prison. He wants him incarcerated. He wants him out of the public view. He thinks he's a disgrace. He is embarrassed by him. Brooks was very, very adamant to make sure his son was put away. Now, at first, when I read this, I think, okay, well, he's a concerned person and then maybe he loved his kid or he didn't, but either way, like, that doesn't mean anything. But What I haven't mentioned is that Tony is the heir to the plastic's fortune. So Brooks is actually the son of the inventor of the plastic bag, and Tony is the next in line to receive the fortune. His great-grandfather invented plastic in a lot of the items we use today, which of course made him a very, very wealthy man. Hence why Brooke was so wealthy and able to travel the world and do all these things. So I find this all very interesting. He's almost granted bail. They just need to wait for his medical records. And then suddenly 30 minutes later, when he gets back to his cell, he's found dead on the assumption that he killed himself with a plastic bag. Personally, you can have whatever opinions you want about this. I think he was murdered. I think his dad said, you know what? My son's a disgrace. He's embarrassing me. He's spending all this money. He's making me a laughing stock. I have a new wife. I have a new child. If he's gone and out of the picture, I can just focus on this family. What a tragedy this was that I lost that son. Oh well, let's move on now. I think that there was some foul play involved. I think because he was so wealthy, he might have tipped off the guards to strangle him. Whatever happened, I don't know that we'll know the truth, but I don't think it was self-inflicted. I think there was some foul play, and I think his dad had everything to gain from his embarrassing son out of the picture. So that is the entire case of Barbara Baekeland and her son, Tony Baekeland. Was it foul play? Was he murdered? Or was this truly just a tortured soul his whole life that ended up taking his life at the end? I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments below. Please like, subscribe to our channel for more cases like this, where we explore further and deeper into these murder mysteries. Please make sure you prioritize your mental health, and I'll see you next time for another true crime story.